Welcome back. SellMoreVirtually.com. Interview number 3 with the man, Ken Trupke. So, Ken, hot seat. We're putting you on it now. You're working with a company. There are definite challenges. There's stuff that's not working. What are some of those things that inhibit growth and productivity, and how do you solve that equation?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And in my experience, the short answer is people. That people somewhere in there, there's a breakdown in communication, there's a breakdown in understanding what we're trying to do, and people get misaligned and then they get disengaged. And when people aren't engaged and they aren't aligned, it becomes a big problem. And usually that's at the root of something. And it's all comes back to the communication and ultimately to the leader. Culture is top down. We're wired to imitate. And so the company is going to reflect the leader and do things the way the leader does. Whether they say that or they don't say something, people are going to follow. We always, do what I say, not what I do, but we always do what people do because it's just how we're made. And so if we want to get a different result, we're going to have to do some different things. And so one of the things that gets in the way of change is that leader's ego. She might think that the way she does it is the way it should always be done, and the way exactly she does it is how everyone should exactly do it. And she might be unwilling to change. And if she's not willing to change, well, then that's going to send a signal to the rest of the team that we don't need to change. And if you don't change anything, well, then you're not going to get different results. And so that's something that I will try to discern early, even in just kind of discovery conversations with a potential client is, are you coachable? Are you willing to make changes? And it's okay if you're not, as long as you're then willing to kind of step aside. Because if you stay in a leadership role, but you're obstinate and you insist on doing things your way or the old way, it's whether you say, but you all need to change. The rest of you guys here need to change, but I'm not going to change. Well, nobody's going to change, and we're not going to get success. We're not going to get different results. So that leader ego can be an issue because it can be hard to admit, hey, I'm the problem. I've been doing things that sent a signal to you guys that hasn't worked. I've thought you were mind readers, and even though I didn't tell you what I wanted, I assumed you knew what I wanted, and you weren't doing it. And I just got frustrated with you. And what we need to do is come together and make sure we know what we're trying to do and that I'm clear about my expectations, and then we can win. So I'll work with leaders who are willing to work on that stuff, but that's where it's going to start. That leader ego can really get in the way. But if they can humble themselves and say, hey, we're going to do things different. We brought Ken in to help us do something different. We're stuck right now and we need to get unstuck. And the way we're going to do that is by changing how we do things. And Ken's going to help us. And I'm 100% behind that. And for some of you, that's not going to work. That's okay. We will help you find another job. But for those of you who can buy in, like I'm going to buy in, then we're going to move forward and win. And so that's one of the biggest ones, is that willingness of the leader to set aside his ego to be able to make the changes necessary to win, because it's going to come down to people and their behaviors. That's the only thing that we ultimately control. We don't control our customers. We don't control the economy. And so we can only change us, and each person can only change themselves. And you got to be willing to buy into that.
Yeah. I said this in a podcast a couple months ago. Dawn and I were speaking years and years ago at a conference, and the whole essence of this conference was a transition in the way people were buying products. The word change. And as I'm walking up to do my talk, it was a big conference. The guy said, oh, by the way, Joe, we don't use the word change here. And I said, excuse me? No, people don't like that word. And the bottom line is, you want to use the word evolve, adjust. It's all the same. If what you're doing is not working, you have to make some adjustments. What are two things, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that you see across companies, across cultures, that are going on right now that need to be repaired?
Well, one thing is, believe it or not, it's going to sound funny, but good ideas.
Really?
And good ideas are hurting and crippling a lot of companies. And I see this time and time again. And what I mean by that is, we can do, as a team, as a company, we can do anything, but we can't do everything. Right. And so we need to make choices. And it just comes down to opportunity cost. There's only so much time, money, and energy to go do things. And so when we choose one thing, by definition, we're not choosing to do everything else. And when companies think that they can do everything and every good idea should get time, money, and attention, it really hurts their ability to execute on those few things that matter. And so I've gotten kind of famous and take some ribbing from the client I'm with right now, because I say all the time, less so than I used to when I first started working with them, but guys, we can do anything, but we can't do everything. Because what I'll get is people raising their hand and going, hey, do you think we should do this? Isn't that a good idea? Do you think we should do that? Wouldn't that be a good idea? I'm like, yeah, of course, that would be a good idea. The problem is that we can't do everything. And so if I do this thing, well, then I can't do other things. And so, of course, it's a good idea, because if it was a bad idea, we would just shut it down. We go, nope, bad idea. We're not doing that. But if it's a good idea, that doesn't give it the go ahead. That doesn't mean, yeah, go ahead and do that. It just means, okay, now let's understand what the costs and the benefits of that is. And now let's compare that to all the other good ideas we have.
Right.
And then let's pick the few, hopefully not more than 3 to 5, and maybe even only one, and execute on that. And yes, we're not going to be able to do all the other things. But just like if you have chicken for dinner, well, it'd be a good idea if you had steak sometime. And it'd be a good idea if you had pasta. But you can only pick one each time you eat. We can only do one thing. We can do anything. We can have chicken or pasta or steak, but we can't have all of them. And so which one are we going to pick? Doesn't mean the other two are bad. Just means they're not the ones we're going to pick right now. And so when people get in the mode of wanting to do everything and every good idea gets attention, and it just becomes a big distraction. And that's how you end up with 30 or, so they have 30 people on your team going in 42 directions, because everyone's working on a good idea. But we got to keep, as not Ken Blanchard, Stephen Covey says, keep the main thing, the main thing. But you got to define what that main thing is. And you got to help people understand we're doing these things and we're not doing these other things, not because they're bad ideas, but we just can't do everything.
It's amazing, because that doesn't just happen in companies. At least once a day, somebody feels compelled to call me up and say, if I had your business, what I would be doing. And I'm not disrespectful, and I give an ear, but we have to have a filter, because we're not other people. We know what we do well. We know that our core has always worked. Now, could we do other things? Well, sure. Yeah. Do we do other things? No. It's like you run the play that scores the touchdown over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So you said they had two things. One was the next idea. What was the second one?
Yeah. Second one is tackling the urgent and forgetting about the important, just being a victim of whatever comes at you, whatever's in front of you. And there's some roles where that's appropriate. If you're in customer service, you literally take them as they come. Whatever that problem that next phone call or that next email or chat has is the problem you tackle. But for pretty much everybody else, we've got projects we're working on with very specific objectives and budgets and timelines. And so we can't get distracted by the urgency, the fire of the day. And so getting people and ultimately companies to stay focused and get out of firefighting mode. The problem with firefighting mode and dealing with urgent all the time is it's very rewarding, because if there's a fire and you put it out, that's very visible. And people are like, hey, Joe, great job. There was a fire. You put it out. Way to go. Whereas if you prevent the fire by doing the important project, not tackling the urgent, well, nobody saw that. So nobody's high-fiving you for putting out the fire that never got started in the first place. So it's so much less rewarding kind of emotionally, and you don't get that adrenaline rush and that dopamine hit of great job, put out the fire. Plus, it's just fun to kind of be distracted by going, tackle this and tackle that. And my identity is firefighter. I'm the superhero that comes in, boom, 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 solves all the problems. Well, that's great, but that, putting out a fire doesn't build a house. So the house is on fire, you put it out. Well, that's different than building a house. And successful companies build the house, not just put out the fire that's destroying something. So they're both important, but a lot of times, especially in a turnaround situation, I'll see people that they're so focused on the urgent because there's just so many things coming at them, because so many things are broken. And to try to step back from that and go, guys, yes, there's a lot of fires, but we've got to get a plan for building and preventing the fires. We can't just live our lives putting out the fires because they'll never stop. There's always a fire. There's always something
Always.
new that's urgent and shiny. And we
Sure.
got to get disciplined around staying on task. That doesn't, and maybe you divide up, and some people are still firefighters, but other people are fire preventers and, working on the important. But that's really another thing that I see a lot. That's a big thing preventing companies from success, is just that focus on the urgent and the firefighting versus the important and the house building.
It's amazing you say that, because in 1992, that'll age me,
I was there. I was around. You're good.
I got my first Franklin planner.
Okay, sure.
Dawn and I got these Franklin planners, and we went away and we got this little place on the beach, and we were going to learn how to use the Franklin planner. And the first thing it said was, when you're doing your to-do list, if you're focusing on just the urgent, and in the beginning, you'll be all urgent, but the key to success is when you tackle the important, and when most of your to-do list is important, not urgent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's 1992, and I find it to be truer today. And just why you said it, that we better be focusing on important, which is builders, and urgent is not building. So that was a great concept.
Yeah. Oh, and I agree. Today it's even tougher because you've got your phone in your hand. And I mean, if the phone is anything, it is all about urgent. Everything's dinging and buzzing and binging at you, and you've got colors popping and things that are telling you need to check it and grab your attention. And if you do that, if you go down that path, it's never ending. There's always another post to look at. There's always another notification to check. And it's all just urgent. And it's meant to be urgent. The way they capture your attention in order to sell advertising, which is the business model of cell phones, is to be urgent and to get you to do the urgent. And you've got to that's why it's important to kind of shut that off and set it aside when you have important work to do, because it's tough on a computer, because all that stuff, if you keep your notifications on, it's all popping at you as well. But today's media and the fact that we're on computers and the internet all the time and on our phones, it's that much tougher to stay focused on important and versus the urgent. But yeah, nothing's changed, and it was true even before 1992 and the Franklin planners. It's always been true. It's just even harder now, for sure.
Yeah, it's the difference between being reactive and proactive.
Absolutely.
I have all the stuff turned off on my computer. Okay. So let's do this. But I think you need to be speaking to companies and on big stages, and I think you need to be promoting yourself. So promote yourself.
Okay. Well, you can reach me at kentrupke.com, and there's hundreds, literally, of videos there of me talking about things like we've been talking about here. And I've got strong opinions, which I think is important, because you don't want somebody who's kind of wishy-washy. And so I'm either going to have you agree with me or disagree, but you're probably not going to come away from a conversation with me going, I'm not sure really where he stands on that. I'm trying to be pretty clear, intentionally, because if you resonate with me, if we click, and part of the reason I have all these videos on my website is before somebody considers hiring me, I kind of want them to know what they're getting into. And so if you watch those videos, you're like, yeah, I like this guy, well, then we've got a chance of working together. But if you're like, whoa, that's not going to work for me, way too fast talking, way too opinionated, well, that's okay. Let's know that ahead of time. It's like we say in sales, Joe, when do you want to get a no? After, right away, or after you've invested a bunch of time? I'd rather get it right away. Sure. So if we're not a fit, that's okay. I have an abundance mindset. There's plenty of people who are looking for me, and that's who I'm looking for. I'm looking for the people who are looking for me. So if you're not looking for me, that's okay. So go to kentrupke.com, watch some videos, listen to this podcast episode again. That's probably a good enough take on who I am and what I stand for. And then reach out. I'd love to have a conversation if there's something topic that I can bring some value to your organization talking about, or help you think about something differently, or come in on an engagement basis and help you make changes in your company. That's what I do. I love coming in, and I've learned some things that work and been able to repeat those in multiple different situations. And so we're going to be able to get you unstuck and get you moving forward. We're going to grow sales. We're going to grow profits. We're going to make it more fun to go to work for you and for your team. We're going to get engaged, get the team engaged, get team aligned, communicate better. and it's just going to be more enjoyable for everybody, and we're going to get some wins. And
Yeah.
as you know from football, nothing's more fun than winning.
That's it. Well, Ken, you are great. Ken Trupke's been outstanding. Can't wait to get with you. It won't be that long. We'll be hanging out together, drinking coffee and selling. Have a great day, Ken. And
Thanks, Joe.
have a great day. Sell more virtually.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.